Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Ember and I play The Sims 4. So if you play The Sims, you probably know that the Cottage Living expansion pack just came out. And a lot of people are really excited about it, including me. And the first thing I decided to do was build a bakery. So I had this idea to basically play The Sims as the Boxcar Children with the new pack. And if you don't know, the Boxcar Children is a series of children's books by Gertrude Chandler Warner that follows these 4 orphaned siblings as they sort of take care of each other and, try to figure out what to do now that their parents have died. And basically, they eventually come to find a old boxcar in the woods. And they decide to live there and make a home there. And now that's just in the first book. In later books, they move in with their grandfather and they go and solve mysteries and stuff. But I loved these books as a kid, and I read so many of the Boxcar Children books, and they were just my favorite thing ever. And so I thought that with this new pack, it would be fun to play as the Boxcar Children. So the reason I'm building a bakery is because in the first book of the Boxcar Children, the very first thing they do in the first chapter is they go to a bakery. So yes, I built a bakery in The Sims just to act out one chapter of a children's book series that I loved as a kid. But I've always kind of wanted to make a bakery and try running one anyways, so it was kind of a good excuse to do it. I think it turned out really nice, and you'll see I fill it up with lots of baked goods and even some preserves. It has a kitchen where they can, where you can bake things to sell in the bakery, and then the top floor is living quarters where so basically where you can have Sims live. Unfortunately in the game you can't have a lot be both a retail and a residential lot at the same time. I really wish you could. It would be nice if you could have lots that serve multiple purposes at the same time. But you can sort of, switch back and forth between them if you want to. Or practically you can basically have your Sims live on a different lot and then just always only stay at the bakery and basically have them live there even if they don't technically live there. So that's one way that you can do it. But yeah, I wanted to build this bakery based on the first chapter of the Boxcar Children. And I read the first chapter to try to figure out, what it should look like, what things should be in there. And really the main thing I found, the main description of the bakery that seemed important to me was that there were 4 red benches underneath the windows of the bakery, and the kids basically asked to sleep there for the night. So I went into the game and I looked for red benches, and I found these red window seats from the Cats and Dogs expansion pack. And so because of the shape of the window seats, I sort of had to make little bay windows, but I think it turned out really cute. And it might look a little bit weird from the outside, but I really wanted to have those 4 red window seats in there so that the kids can go and stay, so that the kids can come and spend the night there, because I definitely want to play that out, and it's nice because it's actually functional, so they actually can nap on those red couches. And so I don't know if I mentioned, but the 4 kids are named Henry, Jesse, Violet, and Benny. Henry is 14 or 13, Jesse is 12, Violet is 10, and Benny is 5 or 6. So yeah, I'm also creating them in The Sims, and I'll probably have a video up about that in the next few days, showing off the Sims I made and their clothes. I think I was trying to create them before the Cottage Living expansion pack came out, and it was honestly really hard to find clothes that fit the theme. And so yeah, I think that it's really good that we're getting some new sort of old-fashioned farmy, cottagey clothes. I think that's something that we don't really have much in the game. So yeah, I'm really excited to design those Sims and, get them all dressed up to play with. And I really liked these little red seats from Cats and Dogs. I always forget about them. Like, these chairs, they're more expensive, so they're farther down in the catalog, but I think they're really cute. They're like wooden chairs with patterned seat cushions, and yeah, I think it goes really well here. I thought about adding more tables to the bakery, but it was honestly kind of crowded, and so I figure, they can just have the window seats and tables, and then you can't really sit at the table from the window seat, so I did add in those like actual dining chairs. And when I first was building this, the Cottage Living expansion pack wasn't out yet, so I was building with things that we already had in the game, so like the Country Kitchen kit especially, which honestly, the new counters and stuff from the Cottage Living expansion pack are very similar to the counters from the Country Kitchen kit, and it's kind of like, it looks a little bit like a cash grab, to be honest, because, they put out the kits and said, like, oh, these are things that aren't going to be in the game otherwise, but then they, like, if the Country Kitchen kit had come out after this Cottage Living pack, like, I think a lot fewer people would have bought it, because we would have already had a Country Kitchen set in the game. So that's, yeah, I'm not a fan of the way that they did that, of like basically just selling us the same thing twice. It like sort of feels like they were tricking us. And like, honestly, I wonder if the Country Kitchen kit stuff was like originally meant to be in the Cottage Living expansion pack, but they just, decided to release it early and sell it. I don't know. It is a little bit sketchy. But here I'm like stocking up the kitchen and putting lots of, I just wanted to have a lot of storage because I figured they would probably have, bags of flour and, fruit. I put a lot of those little fruit buckets around because I figured, if they're baking stuff, they probably would bake some stuff with like orange and lemon and apple in it. So they'd want to have some buckets of fresh fruit and some little milk pails. It was really fun, honestly. I had some Sims that I made for basically to play with the Boxcar Children. I made the baker and the baker's wife, which if you've read the series you might be familiar with. But yeah, they're only in there for like one chapter, but it does sort of get the story started. And so yeah, I made the baker and the baker's wife, and then I had them cook a bunch of stuff for the bakery. So yeah, that was kind of fun. I don't really use like the baking skill that often, but I got to make like a bunch of pies and cakes and bread. And actually, I did all of that baking before I got the Cottage Living expansion. So there's honestly a lot more pies, I think, and maybe some other baked goods in the new pack that I haven't experimented with. So yeah, those aren't even in there, but I did make some preserves. I used the new canning feature to make preserves because I thought that would be cool to sell in the bakery, because basically the way bakeries work in The Sims 4 is they're like stores. You basically just run like a retail store. So I thought it would be cool to have some like preserves that you could sell in the store as well, along with the baked goods. And the nice thing is the preserves don't like go bad over time. Even though the baked goods are in like refrigerated containers, they still do go bad eventually. But I'm pretty sure that the preserves don't, that they stay good forever, which is nice. Although it might be, I'm not sure, like the ones that my Sims made were excellent quality. It's possible that if they're like lower quality that they won't last forever, but I'm not sure. And here you can see I'm showing off some of the baked goods. They're in these little refrigerated containers. I made bread and cakes and pies and cookies because in chapter 1 of the Boxcar Children, it talks about how some of them are looking at the pies and the cakes, and some of them are looking at the bread, and some of them are looking at the cookies. So I wanted to make sure to have all of those in the window to sort of play out that scene. And here, this is, we've gotten to the part where I had gotten the new expansion pack, so I'm using the Cottage Living stuff here. It's pretty cool. I tried to use this wisteria to like climb up the building and like decorate it, but I don't know. I feel like there weren't enough parts of the wisteria for it to really work. Like it was all just sort of straight lines. We could have used like some different shapes and stuff. And I just thought, like, honestly, what I had before looked better, so I just kind of went back to that. Those flowers climbing up the wall. I like using those flowers on builds. I think they look nice. And then I used some ivy, or I think it's ivy, from the vampires pack to sort of go underneath the windows and connect them. And I tried using some of the new flower boxes, but I didn't think they fit really well. So I just left it with the ivy and the climbing flowers on the wall. But yeah, I'm really excited to like play with the Boxcar Children. I don't know, it's definitely going to bring me back to when I was a kid. And I love those books. I'm not like I said, a lot of the books are focused on like solving a mystery, which isn't really a thing in The Sims. I mean, there's Strangerville and there's like a mystery there. I actually haven't bought that pack, so I've never played the mystery, but you know, maybe that's something they could do. It didn't really feel like a Boxcar Children mystery though. But yeah, I was thinking basically like it's the setting of the first Boxcar Children book at least is very like rural, and there's a lot of farms, and they're basically out in like a forest living in a boxcar, and they also have like a little river or like a lake right by the boxcar, so I thought that I could make that maybe with the new pawn tool, which would be cool. And like I also want to build their boxcar and like have them live in it. I'm not sure how well I'll be able to like in the books, right, they sleep on like piles of hay and stuff. There are hay bales in the game, but I don't know if you can sleep on them. So I don't know like how much I can get it accurate to the book and also like functional for The Sims. So I'm not sure how that will work, but I think I'm going to try it, and just like I think it'll be fun to have them living in a boxcar. And yeah, so look out for a speed build of that as well. And if you're not already subscribed and you want to see those videos that I've been talking about, make sure to subscribe so you can see them. And let me know like what you'd like to see in this series or other series. And you know, did you ever read the Boxcar Children? Did you love them as much as I did? Or had you never heard of them before? I used a bunch of like the new debug stuff from Cottage Living to landscape. There's some really interesting stuff in there, like this old bike, and I got like some logs with like mushrooms on them and stuff, and some little patches of mushrooms and flowers. So yeah, I used some debug stuff to decorate out here. I really like making like interesting landscapes, but I also find it pretty hard because there's just like, it's just such like a blank canvas, you know? It's hard to know what to do and what to add. Whereas like with a house or a building, you sort of build the shell and then you can just fill it in. But with landscaping, like there's really no like point where you need to stop. You know, it's hard to know when it's enough and when to stop. You know, if I could just do what I wanted, I would just cover every single build in wildflowers. I did that on like the first thing that I built. I covered the entire lot in wildflowers around the building, and then for the roof of the building, it was like a game hall or an arcade nightclub, and I decided that roofing was too hard, so instead I spent like 2 days putting lavender flowers and purple gemstones like on the top of the building for the roof instead of making a roof. And I just like covered it in flowers. But yeah, I really like adding like wildflowers to builds. And here you can see I was playing around with the new pond tool, making a pond. For some reason the like white ducks it didn't show up. All I saw was the duck's feet. I didn't see the ducks. So I don't really know what was going on with that, but I just left that little family of mallards. and I put in some fish spawners and like dragonflies and tadpoles. I did actually have one of my Sims, the baker's wife, I had her go and fish a bunch in a nearby pond, because basically for the ponds, if you want to fish in them, you have to first have a Sim stock it with fish. So they have to have discovered those fish by fishing in another place, and then they can stock the pond with it. So I wanted to do that. So I had her go and fish. Some of the I like cheated to get her fishing skill up really high. So some of the first things she caught was like a puffer fish and some like really fancy colorful fish that I was like, okay, these probably wouldn't be in a small pond. So I didn't put a puffer fish in the pond, but I did stock it with some other fish that I thought, would make sense to go in the pond. So hopefully, I'm hoping that will like stay, and if you download the build, that the ponds will already be stocked and ready. So I'm hoping that's how it will work, but I'm not really sure at this point. I had thought about getting like having a Sim go and like go fishing and just like find all of the fish in the world, and then maybe you could like save them to the gallery, and then whenever you wanted to stock a pond, you could just get that Sim in and have them stock it with whatever fish you wanted. I thought that might be a cool thing to do, so maybe I will at some point. And you can see now I'm furnishing the living quarters on the top floor of this bakery. So like I said, it's the bottom floor is like a bakery where you can sell things, and the top floor has everything you need to live there. It's only one bedroom, but like, you could have one Sim or a couple of Sims live there. I think it's really nice and cozy. I used like all of the new Cottage Living stuff, and yeah, I really like the vibe of it. I would honestly would have liked to have more items in it, but I think it's still, like, they all go together really well, and they're really, like, cozy. I messed around with, like, the different curtains a lot. I kind of would have liked if they, had more curtains in this pack and not just, like, the blinds. But the curtains from Cats and Dogs worked really well. I used them, like, in the kitchen and in the bedroom, several of the different types of curtains. And I do really like the little bunny bookcase. Well, it's really just like a book item that you can place places, and I really like the wallpaper and the carpet, or the rug actually. And the new wood flooring is pretty cool too. It's like pretty detailed, which I feel like it can be like kind of distracting, but it looks pretty cool. I did do for the bathroom, I just did like a freestanding tub, because I felt like there weren't that many like showers or shower tub combos that seemed very, old-fashioned. And I thought, just a freestanding tub seemed pretty realistic. I did want so the Boxcar Children series, basically the first book is set in like the 1920s or 1930s, and then as the series progresses, like it's sort of set a little bit later, and then like they're still writing books now. Gertrude Chandler Warner isn't alive anymore, but people are still like continuing the series, and they're mostly set in like the present now. But the first book is supposed to take place in like the 30s, so I did want it to be, sort of old-fashioned. I tried not to have too much new technology. I tried to use, lights that would make sense for the time period and stuff like that. I'm not an expert in like 1930s, house decoration, but I just tried to sort of keep it a more old-fashioned vibe for both the bakery and the living quarters. So, there's not like a big TV, or I didn't put a computer in here. And yeah, like I said, I tried to use lights that I felt like would make sense, even though I really like using the like tiny ceiling lights that you can just put everywhere and make it super bright. And yeah, I'm super happy about how this turned out. And yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you liked my bakery that I built. I will put my gallery ID down in the description if you want to go download it. And thank you so much for watching.